Today's the day. Let's do the finishing on our first kiss hat. Quick review, we used 48 pegs. We can make this to fit almost any adult. And we used 2 strands of worsted weight yarn held together as though they were one. Remember to measure the length of your hat, starting at the level of the pegs, going to the bottom of the brim, and get 8 to 9 inches of total length. Snip the yarn, leaving enough length to encircle the loom 2.5 times and insert it into a yarn needle. Here's the last stitch knitted. Now working around in the same direction as we were knitting, pick up each of the stitches. You do not have to pick them all up at one time. At any point, you can pull the yarn tail through. Now that batch are safe. Make sure that your yarn needle does not go between the legs of the peg because you won't be able to lift the stitch if it does. All the way around. And now you see the reason we needed so much length. It just makes it easier to have plenty to work with as you go around the loom. Everything's onto the yarn tail, so now we can remove the work from the loom. Use the tail to gather in the crown real tightly. Now I like to go across this area, the O that forms at the top. Pull it in as tightly as possible. Then I go back in a little bit, some of the stitches to pull from another direction, and I stitch across. There are so many stitches it can be a little hard to work your needle through, but it's doable. And then I move over and I do the same thing from another position. My reasoning is that this step right here is holding the whole hat together. We don't want it to come undone. And now down through the center, and you can easily see from the inside where I stitched. And now I secure with genuine knot or 2. I know that purists do not like any knots whatsoever in knitting, but again, with the logic that this is what holds the hat together, I opt for security. And weave the yarn tails in. And snip off any excess. Now, this is that initial loop that we used as an anchor. We're going to undo it and thread these 2 ends into the yarn needle. This will allow us to completely bury them and they'll be invisible. I'm going to work in and out of that 1 purl stitch, and notice you do not have to work under both of the loops that we were using. You can split a stitch since we're using 2 strands of yarn and hide the weaving in even better than usual. Basically, it's already woven in, but on this end, I really don't want to use a knot because it's the brim, it's quite visible. So I'm going back and forth, one direction, then changing direction, then the other direction before I snip it off. That makes backing out really unlikely, and this tail is quite secure. You may not love your ribbing yet. Here's a little thing not everybody realizes. This area has already been pulled lengthwise to have the stitches set. This area has not. Ribbing really benefits from doing so. It will start doing its work of pulling in much better and get to its eventual permanent potential stitch and row gauge. There it is. And our first KISS hat is complete. The program notes for this video have some links for you. One is to my Ravelry store, one is to an index of other KISS Loom videos, and one is to the Keeping Maine Warm hat charity and contest in case you would like to participate.